Welcome, Sam. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I noticed you bought something on Fern Street recently.
I did, yes.
I called Vince Licata and I asked Mr. Vince, how would you describe Sam in 3 words? And he said humble, transparent, and personable.
God, I'm going to have to pay him now, am I?
I thought that was very kind of him.
It is kind of him. It's big coming from Vince, but that's nice.
Very warm words. You've been in the real estate industry for how long now?
Since 2010, yeah. My
Since
first job was in
2010.
2010.
And where was that at?
That was at Ray White Willoughby.
Okay, on the north side.
I worked for a lady there by the name of Rawa Norman, who I think to this day still taught me the most out of anyone. An amazing story for any sales agent listening, because Rawa came to Australia with very little English, very little anything. She was an engineer back in Iraq, and here she worked in Woolworths, got a job, fell into real estate, hustled like no one's ever hustled ever. Like, I think you never see some of these agents on these shows and trainings and things, but that's the real hustle. It's not a area where you always read about, like the eastern suburbs and things. But Willoughby's come into an amazing marketplace. But she was definitely the hardest working agent I've ever met. So it was a very good start. I was lucky.
So you learnt what it was like to really grind and like understand hard work ethic and those types of values.
Yeah, I think people can get stuck thinking, oh, I can't do real estate, or I can't work in this area. I didn't go to school here. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I don't know that many people. And that's the best example. Like, I didn't grow up in this area. I grew up in the country. And I sort of thought that about real estate perhaps. And then you meet someone like her who, literally didn't even speak the language, let alone know anyone. And then to go on and to be, making millions of dollars per year, I think that rests that argument pretty quick for me.
I love that. That's a great example. You're right. Like, real estate is one of those industries where it doesn't matter whether you are dyslexic or English is your second language or whatever the circumstance is, you're not geographically from that area. I think it gives everyone that opportunity to excel, right?
Yeah.
So you worked in the sales side for how long?
For just over 10 years. So, maybe longer. I don't know, till 10 months ago, 11 months ago. I had a year off at one stage, went overseas and worked overseas for a little while. And then came back to the same office I was working at when I left, in Double Bay, and then was there for a few years before I was like, you know what, it's time. Made the move and jumped on board and off we went.
When you first, if you can recall back when you're on the sell side, when you first got an understanding of what a buyer's agent did, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so like I guess early stages, back when I was working over in Willoughby and things, it was very much in my mind, and I think a lot of people's mind, it was a thing for wealthy people. It was a thing for expats. It was rare on the North Shore for sure. And like you guys were already doing it by then, but it certainly wasn't the norm. It certainly wasn't something we talked about until so for many years later. Like even when I came over working in the eastern suburbs here, it still wasn't common practice. It's nothing like it is now. There's been a big change into that.
And at what point, if you can recall, like whether it was a few years ago or I don't know the timestamp, when you actually started to really think deeply about, hey, this is something that I want to pursue?
Yeah, there was a few things. I think there was some really good buyers agents, and I was referring good buyers agents because I really started to believe in it. I really saw, as a salesperson, it's your job to get every dollar you can, right? And I remember some of the things I did. It wasn't a bad thing, but it was like, you sell a place for 3 million that the owner probably would have taken 2.5, and just because you got their situation, you worked out what they bid on. Like, what I always say to buyers is, you don't have to answer any blunt questions to a good salesperson. And you're talking like the area I work, the eastern suburbs, like any sales agent who's surviving is phenomenal at their job. Like it's a tough industry. So they're phenomenal. They're finding out buyers' motivation, their budget, what they've bid on, what they've missed out on, all without even asking these guys questions. And buyers don't understand that. Buyers just think, oh, they're being helpful. They're trying to work out my brief. And yes, they are, but they will use that as they should, to negotiate and extract the best price out of you. And I've seen a lot of people pay insane money. And I remember one client of mine, they went and bought something, and it was just an insane price what they paid in Paddington. And then I had the task of selling their home, and the market wasn't exactly as strong as they thought. And I was like, this guy got ripped off $1 million, basically. Not ripped off, because again, the agent was doing their thing. I totally understand that, but it just shows you how much that happens, and especially first home buyers. Like, you've got to talk them through it. Once you build their confidence in you and things, you can extract big money without them knowing it. So that was one catalyst. And then the other one was when I was buying a property for myself. Obviously, you don't have access to other agents' things. And I was starting to see what was off market. Once agents sort of saw that I was a real buyer, then all these other opportunities came up, and I ended up buying off market in Wallara. And, all those things sort of built up in my mind about the value that's there, the opportunities that, I guess, if you're looking on those main websites, you're not seeing them all. You're certainly not seeing the best ones.
That first example of, you being a selling agent and obviously getting the right price for the vendor, but the poor buyer who's overpaid potentially 500K. I've never been a selling agent, but I've always, when we used to hire some selling agents, or I've seen selling agents come into the space, I've always seen that as something that's really important, because, you've really seen how buyers have overpaid and made mistakes because the real estate agent is representing the vendor's best interests. And so,
yeah, and it's their job. It's the same thing we always read in the media about underquoting. Well, first of all, I don't think most people know what underquoting is. Quoting conservatively is not underquoting. And people get that so confused. But at the end of the day, as I always say to people, is that salesperson's got a job to do. If I was selling my house, I would want to make sure every buyer in the marketplace was attracted to my home. And the way you do that is price, in some ways, and marketing, but price. And they're being paid a lot of money. Like, a seller is paying someone a lot of money to do the best thing for them. So you can't be upset at sales agents. You've got to be an expert in your area and an expert at what you do, and disregard their price guides. Like, you don't need a price guide to go and buy a property. If you're about to spend, where I work, millions of dollars, you should be out there knowing the price without even, clicking on the ad. And yeah, especially as a buyer's agent, like, I should be able to look at a house in Paddington. I should be able to look at how wide it is, what street it's in, and know what it's worth, whether it's renovated or unrenovated, and go from there without even chatting to the agent.
do you see you having an advantage over other buyer's agents because you came from a real estate sales background?
I've got to be careful what I say here, because a lot of buyer's agents haven't. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's to me it's crucial, because I guess I've been through all that, and also I worked for a lot of sales agents. Like, it's not as if I just worked in one area. I've worked with multiple very good agents, and they all have different ways of operating, and that's what buyers get confused about. Like, when they're going into one marketplace, right? They're like, oh, I only, there's 4, 5, 6, 10 agents in that area. Well, they'll all have a different style. Like, if I go to one particular agent and I know I'm probably going to buy this on day 14. Another one, I know I'm probably going to have to go to auction. Another one, it's usually overpriced, and I'll get it in 6 weeks' time. So there's no point thinking real estate. You need to know each agent, because they've all got their own style. And that's where you add a lot of value. So having worked with different agents, having had that exposure to, I've worked with, I think, the best auction agent in the country. I've worked with someone who used to list the house down. I've worked with someone who's super personable. I've worked with someone who hardly spoke English and was just such a grinder. And that's, I think, what's helped me adjust to, on the buying side, every sales agent having different quirks, different strategies, I guess. because once you sort of get to know those, you can really add some value to your clients.
Absolutely. So did the name Advantage, was that born because you felt like not only a buyer would have advantage having a buyer's agent, but working with a group like you or like yourself?
Yeah, there was a few things. There was that. I was quite conscious that I didn't want to have my name in it because, eventually I definitely want um, other people working within the brand and together, and not everyone wants to work, at Sam Green Buyers Agency. Um, yeah, there was a few reasons for Advantage. I think we are an advantage. We pitch to potential clients in what we offer, and everyone talks about our fee, adding it onto our fee. And I always say, if I'm not saving you at least my fee or double my fee, I wouldn't hire me either. And it's true. And you know what? The best thing about that is you've got to follow it up, right? And you've got to have the testimonials to carry it. And I talk about real life things, and I haven't been doing this that long, so it happened quite quickly. I bought a home by me personally going to the building pest inspection myself, and having been on the sales side, I know how that should look. Um, I worked out that this potentially hot auction I was going to, and they were trying to sell it before because it was going to be such a hot auction. When I went there with my builder, I saw no one had been into the subfloor. No one had opened up the manhole in the attic. And if there's 10 or 15 supposed buyers coming to auction, I know at least 5 would have done that. So we made the call with that client. I said it's a bit of a risk. They were willing to pay 2.5 for this home, and I said it's a bit of a risk, but I reckon we roll the dice and go to auction. And I can tell you, there's not a lot of buyers agents who do that. They love buying prior. Um, and we did that. We got it for 177.
Wow. It's true.
So it's those things like the fee I charged that client was, not actually they paid me extra, but the fee I charged is so insignificant as to what they would have paid. They still would have been happy. Like, so many people buy real estate, they're happy. They don't know they pay too much. They're stoked.
Yeah, and you're right. A lot of people would have tried to secure that prior, but with a strategy like yours, you thought, we'll get a better deal if we, move through this campaign and go to auction. I think that's the benefit of hiring someone who, getting back to my question earlier, I do think it's an advantage having someone who has been a real estate agent, who's been a good real estate agent. I think you're going to know better how to deal with real estate agents, what they're thinking, deploy different strategies like you just shared earlier.
That's half the reason I did this. And Alex, who works with me and is a big part of this business, is both done over 10 years in that space. And there were some really good buyers agents out there, absolutely. And I like and respect them and still call them now. But there were some duds. There were such duds. And, coming in on day one when you put a property on the market and throwing a contract at you saying, this is a really good offer, like, take it. Like, it's so frustrating because one, it usually was a good offer, but there's a psychology behind someone selling. Like, they need to be happy. The agent needs to get happy. Do you know what I mean? It's not just about taking that first offer, and I guess knowing that, and I always say that to agents, is like, hey, firstly, let them know you're interested because otherwise they'll sell it. But I always say, hey, we're interested. How do we play this? How do I help you get this across the line? Like, do you need time with your vendor? Do you need a strong offer now? And that is crucial because at the end of the day, you want to get the best price for your client, but you've also got to help the agent get their client across the line too.
Agree. Yeah, it's a win-win, like you're saying. Everyone needs to feel like they're winning, and I guess that's the art of negotiation. Talk to me about your relationship, obviously, with Alex. Are you guys working on all clients together? Are you both working independently? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, look, the way we structured our business is, we both started this at the same time. Alex took a big leap of faith in coming to help me set it all up and get going. We very much work on each client as well as Alex sort of running the business as well. But um, I'm free of pretty much all admin thanks to Alex. Like, she's doing everything behind the scenes and all the due diligence and all that sort of stuff. And I'm out there meeting, potential clients, seeing properties, and I'm making a conscious effort to, there's a few suburbs that we want to be absolute experts in, and I think we've already got good market share. But I want to make a point of, even when I don't have a client in those homes, I'm going to every house in those postcodes. Why? Because then, I bought a property a week ago. It was that wasn't on the market, but it was 6 months ago. And I didn't have a client for it. It didn't sell. It was a very particular home. It was beautiful. Then I met a client who just sold, and then I said, "Well, I found your house." And they're like, "We just met." I was like, "No, like I know where it is." And I said, "But I need you to know that I'm going to show you this home. They're a seller, but it's going to be weird because it's the first one I'm going to show you." And he spoke to a sales agent who sold his house, and he's like, "Okay, let's go on for the ride." Came, only saw it once. We negotiated pretty much within 4 or 5 hours, and got the deal done. So all I had to do was approach the agent where I saw that house 6 months ago, get them to get the vendor in check, and we got the deal done. But if I wasn't an expert in my area, I wouldn't have known that that was a possibility.
Yeah. And that's an example just reinforcing your product knowledge. Obviously, from the years that you've been in the industry, uh, your ability to match and have an asset like that and actually know that you're going to buy this, it takes years to get to that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think see the best thing that anyone can do, and I've got a new guy starting with us, and the first thing he's going to be doing is he's going to be looking at every single home that comes up in our key area, and yeah, he'll be knowing those prices. He'll be going to those auctions. He'll be seeing all those crucial stats.
So, how would you like the key areas that you're speaking about? Which ones are they?
In terms of postcodes,
Yeah.
well, look, again, I've got to be careful because we do the eastern suburbs of Sydney, right? We've bought outside of that area. We're doing inner west as well. Obviously, I know the Lower North Shore from working there. But me, in terms of personally, I'm focusing very much on the east. I think our knowledge in the core areas of like Paddington, Woollahra, Darling Point, Double Bay, around there, I think we're hard to beat.
So, I've been watching you for a while online. I've noticed, obviously, your socials are slick. You guys are doing a lot of buying. I've really noticed that you guys have been gaining very quick momentum since you entered the space. Did you and Alex anticipate that you both would gain such quick momentum?
Yeah, well, thank you. No, absolutely not. I think when we looked at starting this, I sort of had to look in the bank account and be like, okay, I can set this up. I can pay you, Alex, for 6 months if I need be. That without buying something, because we're doing something brand new. Yes, we know the area, but we're doing something brand new. And yeah, it took a couple of, I think, key deals and some time with agents to make sure they knew us, liked us, trusted us, and trying to add value along the way. Like, make a conscious effort after you've been to a property to return their calls about price, return their calls, yes, I've got interest. No, I don't have interest. Those simple things are really important, and they're surprisingly not done a lot. I also, unfortunately, just before we started, took a ski trip because I thought I'm not going to have a break for a year. And I snapped my ACL and MCL, of course, 5 days before we started. And then, we still hustled. I was in a leg brace, and were rocking up to Paddington Terraces, going up and down. We were being at every property still. And I think agents felt, one, sorry for me, and two, I guess they saw that I was determined to make this happen.
I love that. I love that. And you mentioned your team. It seems like it's growing. Like, where are you guys up to now in terms of headcount, and have you got a plan to grow that further?
Um, Yeah, the plan wasn't to grow that just yet. As soon as we sort of are, it's just we're taking on one guy starting actually this Monday, um, very much in my team and Alex's team, and he'll be working with us. He's got real estate experience, and his job will be not to I'm not expecting him to bring in new clients. I don't want that yet. But I want him to learn to source properties. I want him to learn prices. I want him to learn what we do. And then, I want him to save up, buy his own home, and then he can become a contractor or a commission only agent. Absolutely. But not too quickly. And then, yeah, we have another contractor starting who's, got more experience than me, which is going to be amazing. And yeah, we've got a new office, which, was a bit of a risk again, but I wanted to create a team and a place where people want to work. So that's the plan.
I love it. It's evolving naturally. So that's so exciting. Good on you. I'm so happy to see you smash it. How do you feel like running your own company now? Like being a complete decision maker around, like as you want a new office, you can make these quick and impactful decisions. How does it feel?
People think I'm the decision maker, but Alex definitely steers the ship. I'm out there listing and buying properties, and Alex definitely runs the show. So I have to give all credit there to her. But it feels really good. You're willing to do those long hours and take the risks. There's definitely a lot of people who've supported along the way. So I think once you have a bit of a reputation, I think it's less of a risk because people who are in the industry and have been around will support you, which has definitely happened to us.
Unreal. Well, Sam, I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed catching up. I've enjoyed hearing about your journey so far. Where can people find you that are interested in learning more about Advantage?
Our website, I guess, it's advantagebuyersagents.com. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Unreal. I'm keen to see you tear this year up, so I'll be watching you.
Thank you. Cheers. Look forward to your help.
Thanks, Sam.
Cheers.